All right, everyone, we're back in the shop. I'm kind of starting to look at how to cut this cowl off. I didn't video, but I removed the old brake master cylinder, and I'm looking up in there. I unbolted everything. Thought, oh yeah, it'll come out. They welded everything up in there, and I am having a heck of a time trying to figure out where they welded everything because you can't get your head up in there very well. So I've got it cut out, and it's still not moving. So I don't know if they welded it up to the cowl and then fixed it after that. You know, these bolts right here, it comes up to the front and touches there, and I can get a little bit of movement out of things, but not very much. So yeah, I'm struggling. I got to figure out where all they attach this thing. It's not fun. So looking inside of this thing, I've cut all my tack welds out, got that separated, but up inside of this dash, there's actually, you're not gonna be able to see it, but there's some reinforcing plates that are in the front and the back, and I cannot get in there with a drill or anything to be able to cut those, so I actually have to use a Sawzall, cut them. Once I'm in there, then I can try and rebuild something, and you know, it's going up 3.5 inches. I'll add in some sections of it, and then I'll build the whole cowl onto it. I'm going to reuse this cowl, but I'll be piecing in between the two. Well, I'm sure you can see from the video that I was not having a good time there. I don't know how the previous owner got up in there and welded some of this stuff. Those welds are clear up over backwards up inside. There we are, it's next day. I'm trying to clean up. I'm just trimming all the wires off all those old gauges. I'm gonna be replacing them. But trying to get rid of the junk on this thing. This hanging pedal setup, whoever put it in did a really good job of it. I mean, it made me mad yesterday because I couldn't figure out everywhere that they attached it, but now that I can see, it's actually a very good setup. I just have to cut a few welds down in here off of the front of the dash. I can get it out of there, but I won't be reusing that setup. If anybody wants it, let me know. I'm willing to deal. Getting in there with the Sawzall wasn't very fun, but we finally got that side loose, and most of this side, do a little wiggling to break that weld. This thing would be good for someone if they needed it, because they fit nice, and I have a master cylinder that's bad, but you can get one like it to use with this system. But it's a good looking bracket. Somebody spent some time making it fit. All right, all the rusty, crusty, nasty stuff is removed. Got us a pretty much bare dash panel. Got to take off the windshield latches and the park brake and the data tag. I got to save that guy. So yeah, I'll get started building some spacer panels that will go over here on the sides and bring that up 3.5 inches. And then once that's reset in place, then I'll cut the firewall and start figuring that out. All right, welcome back to shop, everyone. Today, tackling the cowl lift. You guys have already seen, I've got the cowl torn off. Inside of this, it's a little easier to look at this piece than in the Jeep. But you can see the old mounts that come up from the sides of the body, and I had to cut them in half to get the cowl off. So I'm going to be extending those up. I'm going to rebuild all that old structure to keep strength in this. So I'll build all that so that I can slap my cowl pieces up onto those, and then I can set the cowl on top of that. I want to get the cowl back on before I go cutting any more firewall out. I don't know what I'm going to have to use or rebuild on that firewall yet. I did get some heavy duty sawhorses from a friend, so here pretty soon I'll be able to get this thing off the table and onto sawhorses, and I can start swinging the engine and transmission up where they go, and I can finish up that floor, center, the trans tunnel, and the firewall. So that's going to be a pretty big project, but for now I want to get that cowl up so I can get some strength back into this thing so I don't have to worry about cutting everything else out in the future. Alright, I lied to you guys a long time ago. I said by the time I had my next video, and this is like back at episode probably 3, I said I won't have this vise on there in the next episode. Well, that was a long time ago and it's still there. I'm going to change it. I got to make a few tighter bends, and these jaws are junk. The vise doesn't lock. It's just, I have a much better vise over there sitting on the workbench. I'm going to mount it on here, and then I'll be able to make my bends a little nicer. So that's what we're going to do. Well, if I would have known that was only going to take 14 seconds to change over, I would have done it a long time ago. I've been wanting to and putting it off. I'm glad I did. This vise is so much better, much tighter, doesn't rotate. This will be way better. So, about time. Trying to match that profile there. I cut a bunch of this out with the dash panel, so I got to piece that back in. But this, it's about the same profile to fit what that brace was, so I can extend that up and give me something to weld the cowl to at the top. So that's our goal with this one. This other one's going to be a little more difficult. It's a lot bigger piece, but it'll be all right. It won't be too bad to do. Okay, so getting the cowl to this point from this point with the braces is not fun. There's quite a few spot welds in there, and you have to grind them from the back side and then try and pry it without messing up the sheet metal. So it takes quite a while. Got that half done. I'm gonna get that half done, and then I can start doing braces. All right, that took a while, and I had to butcher that plate, but finally got the tappets loose. That was a pain. Well, there's our first brace. I have to piece in that little chunk right there. I should have made this longer, but I didn't, so it is what it is. I'll piece that in. This is actually going to be inside of the cowl, so it is inset. I got to do the same thing up here, build this one, and then I got to do the other side. But that's going to be our new support, and then we'll make our patch panels to go to that, and then the cowl will sit down on top of all of it. So, all right, so I cut our plate. This is going to be this body brace. So, see here, about 1.25 inches to the start of that bend, and it's a pretty long, drawn-out bend, not real tight. So I'm going to try and mimic that, and then this here, it doesn't actually need a bend. It actually comes straight up to that, so it's just going to be a straight side. So we only have to do one bend on this piece instead of two like that one. And actually this bend is close, but it's a little tight. So I think I'll just loosen up the vise jaws and try and get it to roll around the jaw. And then I'll have to try and do a little hammer dolly work and put a flare on it. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. So. actually going to set that a little bit deep so when I tap it around, it might roll around that jaw. See how it goes. Depending on which side you measure, they differ about a 1/4 inch. This is actually the right size for the other side, but it's a little bit short for this side. It's not really going to matter. But yeah, it's not exactly right. This is the side I measured for. So my bend, I put it in a little too deep. Oh well, it'll work. Yeah, we got flanges bent in. It actually feels like it's going to be really close. I got to deepen that one up a little bit more, it looks like. Actually, I won't have to. Yeah, I do. I'm going to be sheeting this whole section right here with a chunk of 1/8 inch thick plate. That's where my brake booster is going to go. The brake booster itself is pretty heavy, and the pressure from your foot while pushing the brakes, it's just there. This firewall is already Swiss cheese and it's thin metal. You can bend it by hand. So we're going to stiffen that up with a heavy plate, and that offset thickness is what I was thinking of there. I think we'll just deepen that up and we'll make it all flush, and then that plate, I'll do what I got to do with it. All right, so what we were accomplishing there is I wanted one flange to be able to weld down to the body, and then where the firewall overlaps, I needed to bend this little tiny offset. It's really thin metal, but I'm going to drill the cowl and spot weld it into this thicker piece along there. So I needed that little offset to be able to set that metal on and hopefully have a fairly smooth side. I mean, I got some dents and stuff here. I got to work those out with a hammer, but it's really close. We'll see. I have some shaping to do, but we're getting there. All right, gotta trim that tab off. That one needs bent a little tighter. Honestly, it could be, that one is cut off. All right, I'll cut it off too real fast. Yeah, it's a pretty decent fit, honestly. There's still a lip right here that I've got to get the plug welds out of and get that extra thickness off of there. And then this one will sit down in just a little tighter. And yeah. Do a little fitting over here. I think this is going to be a decent patch-in panel. That'll be a nice lift on that hood. And this will go up inside of the cowl. We're looking good. I like it. I've been playing with it, trying to figure all these pieces out. I don't have anything done on the passenger side, obviously, but the driver's side is starting to come around, starting to get somewhere. Got some trimming and stuff to do there. I'm gonna go ahead and build this piece for the other side so I can just get it up nice and square. But it's coming along, making some ground. Okay, we're starting to look like something. Got this side and this side tacked on. Looks like I'm gonna have to do a little bit of There's a little bit of warp there. I'll have to do a little straightening on it, but I'm gonna try and set that cowl on and see how it looks. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're messing with our firewall. So we got our cowl lifted. Before I weld that cowl back on, I want to get the firewall plated where the brake booster is going to be mounted. It's just real thin material there, and it's not very strong. It bows really easy. So I'm going to plate that whole section with a chunk of 1/8 inch thick, and that should stiffen us up. It's more than twice as thick as the original firewall. So that's what I'm working on, is fitting that. We actually have our piece right here, and it's just a bunch of slide it in place, make some marks, grind it, a whole bunch of fitting. But it's going to replace this whole Swiss cheese section of the firewall, so we can spread that load out over a much larger area. Once I'm done with that, I'm probably going to start cutting that firewall and lifting it back up to where the cowl's at. Originally I was going to cut that lip and I was going to build it all new, but I really like the factory roll in this, so I'm going to try and use this upper section and just patch the holes as needed. But if I can get that up there and then piece in a chunk of metal down below, I don't know that I'll weld it solid until I have the engine fit where it's going to go. But yeah, that's what we're working on today. Try and get this firewall moved up. That way I can weld the whole cowl back on. Once that stuff's all done, then we'll maybe take a look at doing the dash. Alright, we got our rough shape ground in there. It's fitting decent. I mean, you can see a little gap there. But I do know that when I cut that top lip off of there, that the body side kind of sprung out. So that's going to tighten up some. I'm actually going to put the cowl back on to hold it at the correct width, and then I'll do the last little bit of grinding on this thing. We're zoomed way in here, hold on. There, that's better. So we'll do a little bit more grinding once the cowl's on. Try and, you know, fit that a little bit better. Got a couple little gaps there I'll have to weld. I'm not too worried about them. For the most part, it fits decent. So we're gonna work on that, get that piece done. I saved that little piece of the lip that goes on top. I'm probably gonna put that back on because it's already got the profile that I need to go around this and match up with the cowl. So I saved it. I'll clean it up and put it back on there, and then we'll worry about moving on down the panel. So it actually fits pretty good. Like I said, there's a little gappage. That's offset too, making that gap look way bigger than it is. That there is our biggest gap. Just must have cut the wrong side of my line. Everywhere else though fits pretty decent all the way around. So I think I'm gonna fire up the welder and just tack that into place in a couple spots. And then yesterday I had it bolted together on the nasty metal. This template I need to actually transfer down about 1/2 of an inch. That way I'm sure that my brake reservoir cap will not hit the hood. It was gonna be really close. So I don't want to have it rub and break. So we're just gonna bump it down a little bit, and we have plenty of room in here for the pedal to drop down. Actually might even make it more comfortable at that point. So I'm gonna do that. One step forward, 2 steps back. I got a few tacks on there holding it in place, and then I realized I gotta cut all those tacks out because that whole section of firewall is gonna move back up. So at least those are out, easy to get to. I can buzz them with the grinder. I made a few more good tacks on that little elbow from the inside. So the plate should stay in place. I'll get that firewall cut out and bumped up, and we'll figure it out from there. I need to hammer dolly that edge too. It's pretty beat up. The lower one's pretty straight, but the upper one from prying it off got a little bit beat up, so I'm gonna work on that. Well, we got the driver's side welded in. Looks like crap, but it still needs to be ground down. Passenger side, we're almost there. I made a paper, I'll get out here a little. Made a paper template to piece that in, and then we'll have to do the middle section by itself. I don't know if I'm gonna get after that. I don't know if I'm gonna get after that middle section right now, just because with how high I'm going to set this engine, that trans tunnel is probably going to have to come up a ways too, so I don't want to take the time to piece all this metal in there and then have to just go cut it all back out. So I might cut the pieces, get them tacked in, but I'm not going to weld it all up. The sides, I will be welding that up 100%. And yeah, so there's our template, and let's lay it down and start cutting. Alright, well, I only lit my pocket on fire one time, so that's good. And we got our piece. It's gonna be kind of hard to do this, but we actually got it pretty tight all the way around once I pull everything into place. So the only gap's down there, and that's actually from holes that were cut for the old heater hoses. So I'll weld the rest of it up and then I'll weld that in. But yeah, looks pretty good. Let's get her tacked in. Well, we made a mess, but got it cleaned up, and firewall's looking good, getting closer. I got a piece in that center section, but I'm happy with today's progress. It was slow going, but it's looking good now. Well, we didn't video any of it tonight. I welded hold it in some pieces. I got that section in. Got to do a little metal forming in this section and that section. This here was a bump out for an old small block, I believe. I might end up cutting that completely out and piecing it back in. This whole trans tunnel is going to come up into here too, so I really don't want to mess with too much of it. I just wanted that piece there to keep it from shifting laterally. But yeah, we got some welding done, and we'll keep plugging away. Well, as you can tell, I made another mess, so we must have got something done, right? Got the floors finally back attached to the firewall. I didn't want to cut too much out before adding some pieces in, so didn't get a lot done. Got that little patch up there on the drywall, on the firewall the other night. So getting closer. I'm gonna probably tomorrow night I'll work on patching in a little bit more of that, and then like I said before, that trans tunnel is gonna have to lift up probably about as much as the space being added in, so we'll see on that. I don't want to get too carried away making it look too nice and then just have to cut it all up anyway, so I'll work on those corner pieces probably, and probably leave this little bump in alone for now. So anyways, making some headway. I'm gonna cut that trans tunnel out, then I'll trim these floor pan pieces and get that looking better. But yeah, gaining. Thanks everyone for watching. As always, like, share, subscribe, and let's see if we can grow this thing. Thanks.